So you want to start a business, you've come up with your idea, and now it's time to think about a business plan. So the specification says that you need to understand how creating a business plan can help the business, and you should know the main sections of a business plan. Now, my key tip is if you know the main sections of the business plan, it's going to make explaining this part a lot easier. So let's have a look at those first of all. So a business plan is usually just a document that will contain lots of information, and I've got two slides here. I won't go through them all, but you can kind of pause the video and have a look at these on the main sections of the business plan. So it's going to contain the goals of the business, it's going to break that down into objectives. There is a presentation coming up that goes into detail about objectives and how they can help. It looks at the environment at that point, so how things happening outside of the business can affect the business, so the economy or consumer confidence. Part of that will also be looking at competition. So is there anything out there at the moment like this business, or what this business is hoping to be, the product or service that they're going to offer. And then this part here is looking at the main functions of the business, apart from this timescale at the bottom. So you can pause this and read through those yourself, but I'd just like to remind you of the business diagram that I looked at in the first presentation, where I said a business is about transforming those inputs into outputs, and they have, broadly speaking, these 4 different departments. That's what will be contained within the business plan, details about all of those different things. So how are you going to actually promote the product and get the product to appeal to the customer, and all those things involved with the marketing mix, the 4 P's specifically. How are you going to finance the business? Where are you going to get this money from? How much do you need? What are you going to spend it on? What people are you going to have in your business? Who are they going to? What skills are they going to have? What are they going to do? And then the operations part of it as well, which is how you're physically going to make your product, you know, your timescales, your working hours, those types of things. So if you know these things, or I'm not suggesting that you know all of the bullet points, but if you have a rough idea of, say, 4 or 5 of the bullet points, it makes explaining why a business plan is very helpful for a business to have. So just in case you didn't really realise what a business plan is, if you ever watch The Dragon's Den, even just for 15 minutes to see one of the people, the hopefuls, present their business idea, that is just a verbal business plan. So that really is what a business plan is. They're going through their idea, they're going through competitors, they're going through how much money they want and what they're going to spend it on. And also, if you do watch The Apprentice as well, when they get to the interview stages, we can see Claude here, the very scary interviewer, and he's got a business plan there in front of him from one of the candidates. And that part, that week in the apprentice competition is when they've put their business plans together. So, you know, we're seeing them in these TV programs, and most businesses will have a business plan if they're looking for external finance. So firstly, the benefits. It helps the business achieve their goals. So identifying that will get you 1 mark, but you need to have those analysis skills. So explain why a business plan helps them to achieve their goal and what this can lead to. Basically, why is that a good thing? So I'm always telling my students why and what for every point that you make. So here's a nice little poster. A goal without a plan is just a dream. So having a business plan can help a business identify their goals, because if we flick back, it's going through all of these main elements of how exactly they're going to run their business, how they're going to make their profit, if that's what they're looking to aim for. It can also help, this is one of the main reasons that you'd have a business plan, and if you didn't need external finance, you might not put together a business plan, but it can help secure external finance. Imagine if you went on to The Dragon's Den and you didn't have a plan, and you couldn't really explain what the product was, or what the competition looked like, or how you're going to use the money. The business, the dragons, would not give the person any money. They want to see exactly where their money's going to. You know, banks are very cautious about lending, and investors are cautious about lending because there's a risk that they might not get that money back. A lot of new businesses fail. So a business plan makes sure that the entrepreneur has thought through all of the aspects, and that they have a good plan for being able to earn the money back so that they can pay the lender back as well. It can. Oh, and if you want to think about, well, what can this lead to? Well, all businesses, when they set up, they need money to be able to survive. And this is coming up in the finance presentation and cash flow in particular. So it's absolutely essential that businesses have that startup money to be able to afford the resources to make the product or the service. It can also help identify any gaps in the plan. It's going to be setting out all of these areas. It's forcing the entrepreneur to think about marketing and operations and the money aspects of it, and human resources. Do we have enough people with the right skills? So there might be, because they're going through this logical process, there might be a gap there that they can then deal with ahead of time. And it can also help identify risks as well. So they might think through this business plan and go through this very structured process of thinking of all of these aspects and discover that there is actually a problem with their plan. Maybe they didn't do enough research about the competitors, and there is actually a competitor out there with a very similar product. So now they can identify ways to adapt their product and differentiate it from the competition because they've gone through this really structured process. Okay, so firstly, if you know the main sections of a business plan, then you can answer this element here, and it actually says in the specification objectives that how the business plan can assist the setting up of the business, but also they've really kind of emphasized this point, the raising of finance. So out of all of the points, I think this one is the most important. I always think about Dragon's Den. I wouldn't necessarily quote Dragon's Den in your exam, but think about Dragon's Den. Can you imagine if somebody came onto that show and they couldn't really communicate what it was that their idea is, or was how it was going to be successful, and they didn't have the numbers, the sales numbers or potential sales numbers and all of those types of details, there's no way that the dragons would invest in that business. And that would be the same for banks, or even if you're trying to get a grant from the government, they don't just give away money. You need to be able to set out all of these key elements here. Those are those key elements, so have a read through those.